The quiet waiting between Mohs stages is not a delay. It is the part of the operation that shows the surgeon exactly where cancer remains.
This explainer was written and edited by Dr. Thomas Hocker, a triple board-certified Harvard and Mayo Clinic-trained dermatologist, Mohs surgeon, and dermatopathologist.
Wait, hold on a second. If the cancer spot on my nose is, small, why am I here all day?
To understand why, we have to look at the surgical suite not just as a standard operating room, but really as a highly precise map room. So let's start with your arrival and anesthesia.
Okay, so your day actually begins with site confirmation. The team is going to confirm your identity, your diagnosis, and crucially, the exact site. The surgeon might even compare your skin with a biopsy photograph or the referring clinician's mark. Because frankly, the best margin technique in the world absolutely cannot correct an operation that's performed at the wrong location, right? Once we've got all that confirmed, most Mohs surgery is done while you're completely awake in an outpatient setting. They'll inject local anesthetic right around the tumor. Now look, that first injection, it can sting or burn for a few seconds. Using techniques like buffering the anesthetic, warming it up, or just injecting it really slowly, well, they can reduce that discomfort in some settings. Actually, a review of over 1,000 periocular surgery patients showed some real benefit from those strategies. But the honest promise here? Comfort measures can definitely reduce the sting, but nobody can honestly guarantee a completely painless injection. Once you're numb, you might still feel some pressure, maybe some pulling or vibration, but you definitely shouldn't feel sharp pain.
Next up, the visible tumor and a really thin surgical layer are removed. And this brings us to a super critical definition. What actually is a stage? Because in this context, a stage is not a cancer severity level, like, stage 1 or stage 2. No, a Mohs stage is one mapped layer of tissue. It's an entire cycle of removal, processing, and microscopic review.
So after that layer is taken out, bleeding is controlled, a bandage goes on, and you leave the procedure room to go wait. But here's the thing, that waiting time, it's not idle time at all. It is highly active laboratory work, and that's exactly why a responsible team can't just promise you an exact departure time right when you walk in the door.
Because while you're sitting in the waiting room, this incredibly complex process kicks off. Think of the removed tissue almost like a skin-colored paper landscape. It's taken back to the lab, carefully oriented, and flattened out onto a light table. Then it's frozen, sliced into these incredibly thin sections, stained, and mounted onto microscope slides. The Mohs surgeon, who, by the way, is also the exact same person reading those slides, examines the properly processed peripheral and deep border. And if they see a marked signal where cancer still remains, well, that dictates the very next stage. Additional tissue is selectively trimmed literally only from that specific positive mapped area. This preserves all the healthy, uninvolved skin everywhere else.
Let's jump back to that example of the small spot on the nose. Let's say it's a recurrent basal cell carcinoma. The visible biopsy scar looks tiny. But a skin cancer has a visible part on top and a microscopic border underneath, and those two things are not always the same. Tumor cells can send this irregular projection right beneath normal-looking skin, or they can grow along a scar, or even follow a nerve. So that first mapped layer might reveal that the tumor actually extends way further toward the nostril than the surface ever suggested.
Okay, let me pause you right there for a reset. If we know these tumors can be so sneaky, why map it in stages instead of just, cutting a massive chunk out all at once just to be totally safe? And what exactly happens when those margins finally do come back clear? That brings us to what is probably the most crucial comparison in this explainer. Standard excision and Mohs are both highly legitimate operations, for sure, but they organize pathology completely differently. Standard excision removes a planned margin all at once and then sends it out for permanent section pathology. They look at representative vertical slices, and that's entirely appropriate for a lot of well-defined cancers, including most invasive melanomas. But with Mohs, the margin is read during that staged visit. Because the tissue is actively mapped, any positive area directs the next layer right away, immediately. If standard excision margins come back positive days later, you might have to come back for a second operation. Mohs maps the tissue specifically so you preserve as much healthy skin as humanly possible, which is exactly what you want for high-risk, recurrent, aggressive, or poorly defined keratinocyte cancers, especially on highly sensitive areas like the face.
So, the key here is really understanding what a clear margin actually means. A clear margin means absolutely no tumor is seen at the properly processed peripheral and deep border that was examined during that specific stage. It does not mean every single solitary cell in the removed specimen is sliced up and put on a microscope slide.
Now, you might hear Mohs described as giving you 100% border protection in one visit. It is absolutely essential to treat that phrase as an analogy for the margin method, not some magical cure guarantee. 100% refers to examining the properly processed peripheral and deep margin, rather than just taking those representative cross-sections we talked about. And one visit just means the mapping, the slide review, and any directed additional stages usually all happen during the same episode of care. But listen, no skin cancer treatment prevents every single recurrence, and none of them guarantee a 100% lifetime cure. The true superpower of Mohs is that complete mapped margin assessment combined with saving as much tissue as possible.
All right, let's move into our next chapter, repairing the true wound. Once the examined margin is finally completely clear, that cycle of removal ends. Now, and literally only now, can the surgeon evaluate the actual, final wound and figure out how to repair it.
Going right back to our recurrent nasal BCC case, because the tumor had that hidden extension creeping toward the nostril, the final cancer-free wound ends up being larger or maybe differently shaped on one side than the original spot suggested. This changes the entire repair plan. You literally cannot finalize a reconstructive design until the cancer is entirely removed because it's those hidden extensions that dictate the true size and depth of the wound.
Repair is a completely separate decision altogether. And while same-day repair is really common, it's definitely not a rule of same-day at all costs. Depending entirely on what best protects your function and your appearance, the options could include a linear closure, a local flap, a skin graft, or even natural healing without any stitches at all. Sometimes a delayed repair is just safer to let the swelling settle down, or maybe the tissue needs to be sent out for additional pathology. Sometimes a complex stage flap requires more than one operation right from the start by design, or you might even be referred out for coordinated reconstruction by a plastic or oculoplastic surgeon. The guiding principle is always this: clear the cancer first, understand the wound, and then choose the optimal repair.
Wait, all this talk about surgical repair and bleeding, what if I take a blood thinner? Should I, stop taking it a few days before I come in just to be safe?
No, absolutely do not independently stop aspirin, warfarin, clopidogrel, apixaban, or any other prescribed antithrombotic medicine on your own. A medication change like that needs to carefully, very carefully, balance your bleeding risk against your clotting risk. You really must follow a coordinated, individualized plan established by both your Mohs surgeon and the clinician who prescribed the medication to you in the first place.
Okay, so now that the repair is finished, let's cover your next steps as you prepare to finally head home.
You absolutely must leave with specific written instructions directly from your treating team. A skin graft, an eyelid flap, and a natural healing wound simply do not share a single universal schedule. You need to confirm exactly what was done and how to manage your specific bandage. Ask them which pain medications are actually appropriate for you. And make sure to confirm any ride needs, especially if you've been given sedatives or if your vision is at all obstructed. You also need to know exactly which symptoms, like unexpected bleeding, worsening pain, fever, or swelling, should actually trigger a phone call to the office. And finally, double-check and confirm your exact follow-up dates for suture removal or any planned second stages of repair.
After Mohs, you move on to the reconstruction pathway that matches your specific, actual wound. I highly encourage you to read the complete Skin Trust article, How Will My Skin Cancer Wound Be Repaired?, to really explore those paths in detail. And remember, this explainer provides general education, so please make sure to discuss these individual decisions directly with your treating clinician.
Expert Hocker created Skin Trust to provide free, evidence-based dermatology education and help patients and clinicians make clearer decisions together. The next time you look at a tiny spot on your skin, ask yourself, what might really be hiding beneath the surface?